We live in a fast-paced and hectic world where it's easy to feel overwhelmed, stressed, and out of control. How do you manage all the competing pressures without losing sense of yourself? How do you stay focused enough to not only plot a path, but follow it? Welcome to Master Your Life, a show that offers inspiration, insight, and intelligence, as well as success stories from many walks of life that can show you how you can control your own destiny. Our knowledgeable and entertaining host and her guests give practical advice that you can use every day in the quest to master your life. Now, here's your host, Leaha Mattinson.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's show. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I'm host Leaha Mattinson, and joined today by the wonderful CEO of Therapeutic Solutions, Tim Dixon. Tim, how are you today?
I am great, Leaha. How are you?
I am absolutely fantastic. I'm so delighted to actually have you here, Tim. I haven't spent very much time in the last 7 years talking about supplements on my show for a wide variety of reasons, but the science is in, and some of these nutraceuticals are really working to help people. So I was delighted to be introduced to you through a mutual friend in your work, and I could not wait to actually introduce you to our audience who is trying to master their life and sometimes coming up against some very significant challenges. And sometimes it isn't about willpower, your ability to make things happen in your life. Sometimes it's because you've got underlying health issues that you really do need to have solutions to. So when I was introduced to you and your work, I couldn't wait to develop a relationship with you. And so here we are today having a discussion about you and the work that you're bringing to the world. So Tim, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. I'm Tim Dixon. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Therapeutic Solutions International. We're a publicly traded company. We are a clinical stage biotech company. We have a cellular division and we have a nutraceutical division. And I think today we want to primarily talk about nutraceuticals, but we have broad interests, and certainly our nutraceutical products are built around our cellular product or our other clinical work that we do. So one complements the other. In fact, it's kind of what drives some of this other work. So Therapeutic Solutions is on the nutraceutical side. We have a variety of products, but they're all designed for one thing, to either upregulate or downregulate the immune system. That's the focus of our work. We're immunologists, is what we do. We look at the immune system as a tool that we can use even in a dysfunctional state. It's a tool that can be used to reestablish health. And if your immune system is healthy, then you can beat things like COVID-19. You can, there's a lot of people that survived COVID-19 that never went to the hospital. They maybe had a runny nose, maybe a headache, maybe they felt really, really kind of bad, right? But they took nothing. Why? Because their immune systems were strong enough to defeat the virus. That's the best kind of immunity that you could have. But anything you can do in situations and times of stress like that to boost your immune system, that's what we're about. And that's what we want to provide people.
Yeah, I love it. It's such important work. And right now there's so much fear everywhere about, am I healthy? Am I going to get sick? Am I going to be able to handle, a virus when it comes along? Prior to COVID hitting, many of us never gave a second thought to it. It's like seasonal flu. Oh, well, here it comes. And we know that, some people are going to have difficulty with it. But this year, really, the focus has been on how do we actually take care of ourselves and understand that when we are not well, it actually affects all areas of our life. So not just
and can affect other people, right?
And other people.
Because SARS-CoV-2, the virus, leads to the disease COVID-19, right? And if you have that disease, you may not really feel very bad, but you could still be a danger to those in your immediate surroundings, right? Because you can infect them. Mm-hmm. So I think we've all taken on a new sort of self-awareness that we didn't have before. I've heard things even on like Weight Watchers recently where they said their milkshakes now boost your immune system. That's fantastic, right? They've never said that before, but they are now because everybody now is thinking about their immune system. It's kind of all we think about around here, 24 hours a day sometimes, right? So whatever we're producing, whether it's Quadrimune or Projuvenol, Nanostilbene, all of these products are designed to do one thing, either take the immune system up or take it down, but to return it to some kind of normalcy, if that makes sense, right? And we can do that from nature, because in nature, there's this amazing bell curve that occurs with things that we get from apples and oranges and broccoli and cherries and blueberries and all the thing, lettuce even. All of these things have some cellular material contained inside, deep inside of their cells, that are not only nutritional, but can play an immunological basis in our immune health as well, right? So, you know, if you take and you eat an orange, you're going to pretty much get all of the vitamin C that is in that orange. You will, because there's other things in there that help you to metabolize all of that, right? But if you go to the drugstore and you buy 1,000 milligram caplets, and that's how they come, they just do, that's the way they come, and you take one, if you're in perfect health, at best, you'll metabolize maybe 190 milligrams. Well, what about the other 810? Bye-bye. You never touched them. You never used them. But you do get all of it out of the orange. So there is a difference between supplemental products and nature, you know, when you eat an orange or you eat an apple. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a couple of reasons, maybe.
So sometimes we have to increase what's in nature. Mm-hmm. So I have a product called Nanostilbene, and the active ingredient in that is a compound called pteristilbene. The amount that you need to take that has an effect on your immune system, you would need like 15,000 bowls of blueberries, right? Oh. So we don't have enough blueberry bushes in my backyard to supply you. I'm sorry. So we use a natural synthetic of that, but that is molecularly the same, right? Because there just isn't enough. So outside of nature, you do have to compensate for that. So we give a little more of it so that you have the ability to digest it and metabolize it, and that you can get as much up into your bloodstream as you can. So it's all about immune.
I love it. I love it. And because, so what you're saying is there's a distinction between not only product and bioavailability, but the research that has gone into creating products that actually are bioavailable enough to be able to affect the human system.
Yes. Yeah. And our focus here is we do all kinds of preclinical and clinical work with all of our products. So our Quadrimune product, which is an immune booster, it's currently in a COVID-19 clinical trial for those who are at great risk. And it's a 500 patient clinical trial. I'll admit it's been harder and harder and harder to get enrollees as vaccines are rolled out. We're actually happy for that. You know, if I had to shelve that clinical trial because I didn't get all 500 people in, or I cut it off at 400 or something, I'm not going to feel bad because I've collected a lot of data. I'm happier that a lot of people got vaccinated or had it themselves and have self-immunity, but didn't need to participate because they're no longer at risk, you know? So there's a trade-off there, but no doubt about it, we are deeply interested in that. That product, I think I have maybe 11 or 12 patents on that product for all kinds of things that are besides COVID-19. We made some very fascinating discovery when COVID hit, it crushed a lot of people. It actually accelerated us. And, we didn't get slowed down. We got accelerated is really we were Operation Warp Speed ourselves. And so all of our nutraceuticals are at least clinically tested at least a phase 1 level. So for example, with Quadrimune in a phase 1, healthy humans, 40 people participated in the clinical trial, 8 were control, 32 were participants. We were testing for safety, and so in those 32, we had 4 groups of 8. Group 1 got the regular dose, which is 2 capsules a day. Group 2 got double that. Group 2 got triple, and group 4 got 4 times. So what we found out is that there was no adverse events, and that there was no upset stomach. Sometimes supplements can upset your stomach a little or make you feel jittery or things like this. but there was none of that associated, even at 4 times the recommended daily dosage. We do that with all of our products because we want to make sure that what we're putting in a bottle is safe. You know, the effectiveness of that is already described in the medical literature, right? If you take the molecule 𝑑𝙞𝙩𝙩𝙡𝙯, which is just one of the molecules that's in Quadrimune, there's probably 3,000 or 4,000 peer-reviewed published papers on that molecule. And it's a very wide-ranging molecule. Its spectrum of activity goes from anti-apoptotic here, where it prevents cells from dying, to on the cancer side of things, increases the rate at which cancer cells die. So very broad spectrum molecule, right? So there's a lot of science behind every single molecule that we use. And so, yeah, it's kind of important. Yeah.
And so with the Quadrimune, let's just again talk about that a little bit more for the audience and listen. When people's ears perk up about specific conditions that they are dealing with, what would be, again, just going through maybe a list of 5 or whatever specific conditions that it might help?
Sure. So to begin with, Quadrimune is a synergistic blend of 4 molecules. 𝑑𝙞𝙩𝙯 comes from blueberries. Long word, 𝑸𝒖𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆 𝑸𝒖𝒂𝒃, which is shortened as �ＥGCG. 𝑸𝒖𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆, which comes from a plant called Nigella sativa. You know it in your kitchen as cumin, you know, the spice?
Yes.
But we take the seed from the plant and we pulverize that seed and mill it until it's in a fine powder. And then the other is a broccoli extract that has a molecule in it called glucoraphanin. So it's glucoraphanin, thymoquinone, thymoquinone, I said, 𝒖𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆 𝑸𝒖𝒂𝒃 and 𝑑𝙞𝙯𝑡. Those are the 4 molecules. They are synergistic together. There is advanced science on those 4 molecules working for a common good. So now to break that down a little bit, the 𝑑𝙞𝙯 is a major anti-inflammatory. So if you get sick with COVID-19, you're sick with an inflammatory disease. Yes, it began as a virus from a bird, from a bat, really, right? It's an avian flu. But now you have an immunological disease that's going on in your system. 𝑑𝙞𝙯 works to reduce that. The �ＥGCG protects the lungs. It is, and here's the really interesting thing. On Quadrimune, I was doing specific work in each of those 4 molecules for completely different reasons until COVID-19 hit. And then we looked at all of the data independently and so we've got to put these together and this is why, and we did. So the EGCG is working on the lung. The sulforaphane, which is, so I mentioned a compound called glucoraphanin. It's actually a bioinactive compound that we're using you as the final laboratory. When you ingest glucoraphanin and it gets into your intestines, there are flora in there, bacteria, that convert it into a new molecule called sulforaphane. Sulforaphane is an activator of phase 2 enzymes. So phase 2 enzymes can scrub your system of toxins. So things that are toxic in your system, they can scrub it out. The thymoquinone, which comes from the cumin or the black seed of the Nigella sativa, is actually nature's precursor to you've heard of the drug chloroquine or hydroxychloroquine, used in hospitals for COVID-19. This is the only natural precursor to that molecule. So your body, again, in the intestine, converts that bioinactive molecule into a new molecule, thymoquinone or chloroquine. So that is the antiviral aspect. For thousands of years, people have used black seed as an antiviral. In fact, in the tombs of pharaohs, they found big containers of the black seed. They were storing it for all eternity, I suppose, right?
Right.
So in fact, in the Quran, it says of the black seed that it cures everything but death. Right? Which is a very interesting thing. So I have a lot of patents that I'm prosecuting before the patent office right now, and I'm sure that is going to come up as prior artwork. It's a term of patent law, right? But there it is, previously described, right? So we have to contend with that. So that's what Quadrimune is. Now, synergistically, they work together. Lower the inflammation that is occurring, reduce the inflammation that is occurring in the lung, and stimulate antitoxin molecules from your own immune system that can remove toxins and at the same time stimulate the immune system to produce. So the very interesting thing about all of this is that out of this product, your body, your immune system, the final result of taking Quadrimune is the production of a cell from your immune system called an NK cell. NK means natural killer. So natural killer cells are what, if you have cancer, it's natural killer cells that kill the cancer. Now, sometimes you don't have enough of them, and that cancer becomes a tumor, and that tumor begins to grow. And then they treat you, and maybe that tumor is breast cancer, and they treat you with a drug called Herceptin for that breast cancer. If your immune system isn't able to produce NK cells because you're kind of that sick, you fail the treatment. So there are things that they give you if you're on Herceptin to produce NK cells. We've done it naturally with these 4 compounds, and we have the clinical data to prove it. So that's a very fascinating aspect of what this product does. So it isn't just that those 4 individual molecules do what they do. Combined in the end, they cause your immune system to begin producing one of the most potent immune cells that there are, and that's the natural killer cell.
So it's turning you in your own body into a superhuman body. That's the
Or
what a human body should be, right?
A super lab, right? Because that's kind of
Right.
how we were designed. We were designed as a laboratory. It's really fascinating. Now, there's another important aspect of this. This is to have really good immune health overall. Our gut, our biome in our gut needs to be in good condition as well. These molecules work to correct what's called dysbiosis. So when if you're sick, everything's kind of in unbalance, right? You even have a neuronal biome that gets out of balance, and the gut plays a very important role in that. So everything that we can do to correct the immune system to either upregulate or downregulate to achieve the results, that's what we're trying to do with all of our nutraceuticals. And some of them are for very specific things. Some of them are a very broad category, like the Quadrimune. So we talked about the COVID-19, right? Yeah. But I have patents on it reducing suicidal ideation, okay? We have a spin-off company called Campbell Neurosciences that is involved in suicide prevention. And so these products are used in that Campbell model as part of that suicide prevention. So we have strong data on that. And the other areas that it works on is there's a diabetes drug called metformin that millions of people in the US take, I'm sure, on a daily basis, and worldwide, oh my gosh, who knows, right?
Right. Yes, definitely.
But people need that drug. If you combine the Quadrimune with that drug, we have data that shows that it defeats many viral infections. It isn't just SARS-CoV-2. You know, there's SARS-CoV, there's MERS, MERS. See, we were doing work in these viruses back in 2018 and looking at all of our nutraceuticals. So we kind of weren't caught off guard when the new version of it came along. It just reignited all that previous work. So there's some of the patients who had more of an end-stage response to COVID-19 and actually ended up being hospitalized. They have lung disease, right? They have lung disease going on now. Now they need to be hospitalized, and their lungs are being destroyed by this. Part of the byproduct of that, and it was really kind of strange because it seemed to affect mostly people in the 30 to 35s. They just started producing blood clots in their bloodstream, and many of them who died. In fact, there was a study done right here at UC San Diego. I think they looked at 125 young people, and all of them had blood clot, who all died of COVID-19. All of them had major blood clotting in all of their organs caused by the COVID-19. The combination of another drug called minocyline and Quadrimune, together we have data, prevents that it's clotting factor that is causing this. So the immune system gets so hyperactivated with this disease, COVID-19, that it even begins producing an excess of clotting factor. You know, normally you cut yourself and it immediately clots and it's kind of over. It begins clotting all of your blood, right? So this defeats that. It turns off clotting factor. So there's 5 I think I described for you real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And so I think it's interesting. We're sharing what the symptoms are when people have not the COVID-19 virus, but just this whole, the gut brain biome issues.
Exactly. It is so interconnected. It's married.
And a lot of people have never been well. So let's, first of all, ever, like they come out of the womb unwell.
That's right.
And they have never felt healthy. And so can you
have babies coming out of the womb who are addicted to narcotics, opioids, right? And other, call them recreational, but illegal drugs, be it, right? Their health is never going to be the same. Right, they're in an uphill battle from birth, but just normal.
Right,
we degrade from day one.
Yeah, and there's so many autoimmune issues. So many people, the increase in suicide attempts. So I do think it's really important to talk about this. There's a 300% increase in Canada in suicide, successful suicides, and we can go on in the stats, but for people who are listening, again, it's going, what are the symptoms that you might be experiencing yourself when you've actually got this gut biome issue and brain biome issue?
Yeah.
Is it forgetfulness? Is it anger? Is it impulse control problems? Can you speak a little bit to that?
I can, and it's really fascinating because we just finished I think there were 30 patients in the clinical trial. So I think we've made a very, very fascinating discovery. And we have been able to detect suicidal ideation before it happens in the brain, looking at neuromodulators in the brain and neuropeptides that are in the brain and inflammatory markers, proprietary ones that we've identified. We can identify the suicidal ideation by those biomarkers before the patient has even had the thought. On the other end of that, not only can we detect it before they've had the thought, we can detect it when they are hiding it. And here's the scenario. Joe goes to see the psychiatrist. He's sitting out in the waiting room and he's looking and he hates waiting. And he says, when I'm done here, I'm going to drive my car right into a gas station or a cement, whatever. I'm going to kill myself. Yep. He's having these thoughts. And then he goes in and the doc says, hey, how you doing, Joe? I've never felt better. I am on my A game. I'm on top of the world, everything. He's hiding it. If that doctor right then draws blood from that patient and uses our what we call the Campbell score, we can score that blood and we can detect that suicidal ideation even when the patient is hiding it from the physician. We believe that it is all biological, that it is all an imbalance of inflammatory markers that are in the brain. We've mapped it out. So we just recently did 30 patients, 10 in a control that had no history of suicidal ideation. So you would just call them a control group, all healthy. The second group was a group of 10 patients who had suicidal ideations, but had not acted upon them. And the third group was 10 patients who not only had the suicidal ideations, but during the trial acted upon them. And what we found out is that there was a 60% increase in these neuromarkers over the control group. The group that had suicidal ideation was about 3 times. In the next group, it was double that group. And so we intend to now go back and do 10 times that many patients. So the next clinical trial will be a 300 patient group. NIH here kind of likes things in multiples of 10, right? So when you design these things, you might think about how big that can grow and the cost to do all of that. But it isn't just that we have been able to identify suicidal ideation using a simple blood test. It's that we have the immunotherapies to treat it. And that's the very exciting thing. So,
yeah, so which products specifically would help with that?
So in the Campbell model over there, the Campbell therapeutic model, if you will, is pyramidal. On the bottom of that model are nutraceuticals like what I talked about, 𝑸𝒠𝒻𝑢, which all of those molecules reduce these. All of the, here's the other thing, all of those molecules can cross the brain-blood barrier. That's the plus,
okay.
right? So we can circulate them into the brain very easily. Second, they can be not only delivered in a capsule form, but we actually have a liquid form as well that we call Ultra. It's just not on the market yet. I have a little work to do, but anyways, my point being is it can be delivered in many the molecules, right? But the point is, it's sort of one of those. Listen, it's always less is best, right? We don't need to jump to cellular therapies if we can easily reduce these inflammatory markers in the brain using things that come from nature, like 𝑸·𝒠𝒻𝑢. Within that are some other products, nanostilbene and nano-PSA. They can be used in some relationship. But above that, the next product is a cellular product. We call it Neuroleukin. It is platelet-rich plasma. You probably heard of PRP injections in people's knees before. Athletes will get PRP in their knees. You spin the blood and you get the rich platelets out of it, and those are used. We deliver this intranasally. So we, using an atomizer, deliver this platelet-rich plasma up the patient's nose intranasally. Those products down below, when I spoke of, neurostilbene is another one, right? That is part of that base group. That can be used in conjunction with the PRP intranasally, and all of that immediately crosses the brain-blood barrier and goes to work at reducing these. The next level up, so remember the pyramid's climbing, the next level up is a cell called a stromal vascularization fraction cell. It's a type of a stem cell that can be obtained from the patient in clinic. They can take a little bit of fat out and within minutes replicate some cells that are used for this. Of course, they can also be bought in bulk from a stem cell company, right? But it's a universal cell on that side, but from the patient, it's a personal cell, right? So it's two separate worlds. But on the masses, it can be done that way. But on an individual, the patient themselves can contribute their own cells to this treatment, which puts it all as personalized as it's ever going to get, right? Now, at the top of that is a stem cell that we have called 𝑸𝒖𝒐𝒕𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆 cell is a stem cell that comes from the umbilical cord, but not just anywhere, from a very specific region of the umbilical cord. This is a patented stem cell that is currently in many clinical trials, but in this Campbell model, that would be the pinnacle of the treatment. And that patient could ascend all the way through all 4 levels of those treatments. Some patients may bypass this completely, and that they have such level in there, because the stem cells are anti-inflammatory too. They modulate the immune system as well. So they may have such high levels of this Campbell's score molecules that we're looking at, that you just go straight to the cellular therapy. So that's what Campbell's doing over there. And we believe that we have an answer to suicide that's biologically driven. And so we're really excited to continue. It's such important work, Leaha, that we spun that off as a separate company from Therapeutic Solutions, because we have so much going on here. It would dilute the good work that needs to just run under its own power. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. And so again, to the audience, you don't have to be suicidal. You don't have to even have thought anything suicidal, but you could take these things as a preventative measure.
Absolutely.
So if you're thinking about actually not the old biomechanical model of ill health, but instead the bioenergetic model of wellness,
yes.
Then you would be thinking, how do I never experience the brain chemistry that causes me to think I want to harm myself? Or how do I make sure that the people who are in my care also have that experience? How can I set them up for success in their life? And part of that is by having these supplements that have been proven to work. You guys can check out the scientific literature those of you who are interested and those of you who just want to get on something right away, please come to masteryourlife.ca because you can get your supplements there. And I can't, this is the first time that Tim and I have actually spoken. So Tim does not know, in our family, we have Huntington's disease.
Oh.
Yes. And so very much I've been the, advocate of everyone be well, and let's, wellness must come from within.
You hit the nail on the head. Wellness.
Yeah. Wellness. So my business cards even say that, wellness comes from within.
It does. Wellness is the key, not management. Wellness.
Wellness.
We have to adapt a new idea about our own health, that for too long we've been managed, right? But we don't need to be, we need to think wellness. And we can do that through natural. Look, sometimes we do have to use some synthetic things.
For sure.
The chemotherapy and radiation still works, right? We never want to throw away something that is a standard like that. But anything as individuals we can do that doesn't require a physician by supplementing.
Right.
You don't need every supplement. You just kind of need to know what's going on in your life and what you're not well with and otherwise. And there's lots of things. We don't have all the answers for everything, but we
right.
I get a lot of ideas from people that causes me to make new things. I was working on 4 different products when I came up with Quadramune, and they came from 4 completely different sources.
Right. Yes.
It was very, very fascinating that they all kind of came together.
Right. So you're like the chef. You're a chef making a really good, the most perfect, palatable meal in order to be able to make this body function.
Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't taste good. I have to admit, it doesn't. Right. But it's okay. Right. It is okay. It is okay when it doesn't taste good. There's a lot of bad nutraceutical stuff out there too. And, I don't judge anybody else, but I know there's people who cut things short. They claim they have things in there that they don't, or they put things in there that they shouldn't. We're after one thing only, to either upregulate or downregulate. We're transparent on what's in all of our products. We don't hide, a lot of companies will hide behind proprietary blend. No, because I had somebody write me the other day and said, can you just give me a little more specifics, like what the concentrations are, per, and I was helping them on that. And they said, because right now I've been buying capsules of pterostilbene, capsules of broccoli extract, capsules of Nigella sativa, and capsules of green tea extract. But I'm having to take it in the quantities that they're coming in. I said, all you need is Quadramune, right? Right. He was already, but the guy was smart enough that he had figured out just on his own that he needed to be taking those things, and he found us. And I think he's going to realize that he might as well just buy ours. It's all blended together into 2 capsules. It's all you need, right? Makes it so much easier. But there are people that are smart like that will go out and do the independent research. And look, let me give you a tip. Stop buying caplet vitamin C. You don't need it. Find a source of liposomal vitamin C, right? Liposomal is a liquid form, and it really, everybody I know that makes it, we can make it, we don't, but all the good guys that I know that make it, it really kind of tastes like Tang. If you remember Tang from, kind of like an orange drink for breakfast, not orange juice, but an orangey drink. You know what I mean? It's kind of, Tang for Nessa, but
I've been willing to take anything, Tim, honestly, because I want to be well. If anyone knows the symptoms of Huntington's disease,
yeah, absolutely.
You want to be well.
So find a liposomal vitamin C. Right. Typically 1,000 milligrams a tablespoon is what the concentration is. Here's the key. Take that tablespoon, you'll metabolize 800 milligrams. Take the caplet and you'll metabolize 190. So why are you spending money on caplets? Buy the liposomal. It's probably 5 times more bioavailable, and probably the bio half-life is increased because of liposomal makes smaller particles of the ascorbic acid. So
I love it. I love it. Years ago when I was starting to take, like everyone was pushing the omega-3s, and I went, oh, you know what? I want to take actually krill oil because it's 10 times more bioavailable. And at that time went, oh, that made sense. And so bioavailability is really important. This crossing the blood-brain barrier is also a very important thing.
It is, and all of every product that we make, we make sure though that we're working in molecules that do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we make a neurostilbene, which is a intranasal supplement that comes from a parent product called nanostilbene, but nanostilbene is too concentrated for you to put up your nose. It is hot, if you will, right? It's a nanoparticle product. And this product, so the neurostilbene is a dilution of nanostilbene so that you can tolerate it going up your nose. None of us like squirting anything up our noses, right? We want to squirt everything out, not up. But the concept there is that this is a nanoparticle product. And so the nanoparticles, they're so small, they just go apart on their own. And they're immediately at work in the brain. Those nanoparticles, and we conducted a clinical trial called pharmacokinetics. The pharmacokinetics is the study of drugs in the human system as to peak concentration against time and bio half-life following peak concentration, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So with the nanostilbene, we took 10 healthy individuals and provided them a 300 milligram dose of the liquid, what we call nanostilbene. And then they took there was another group of 10 who took a powdered version of the same molecule that isn't liquid. We produce a liquid crystal. The other group had a powdered crystal, same 300 milligrams. At peak concentration, both groups peaked at about the 4th hour. At the 4th hour, our nanostilbene, which is a patented product, had literally double the concentration in nanograms per milliliter of blood plasma. The group down here metabolized about 145 milligrams on average out of 300 milligrams. So when you go to buy terastilbene in the capsule form, and they're telling you to take 100 milligrams or 200 milligrams, whatever their particular capsules might be, some 100 milligrams, whatever they're recommending, it's typically around 200 milligrams. Understand, when you take that powder, you're only going to metabolize about half of it. But with our nanoparticle version of the same molecule, those patients on average, almost all metabolize the full 300 milligrams. So you really got the entire dose, but better than that was on the bio half-life. Now that it's reached peak and you have the peak amount in circulation to do work, how long does it stay there conducting work? You measure that as well against time. The powder ran out at 14 hours. This product was still measurable in the blood at the 26th hour. So theoretically, if you took the nanostilbene at 7 a.m. and you took it tomorrow at 7 a.m., you have a 2-hour overlap of active compound in the bloodstream. And that's what we recommend, is that people take it at the same time every day so that you always have that little overlap before you metabolize the new dose, which takes 4 hours. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So that same nanostilbene is what's used to make the neurostilbene. It's the same particle. These things are so small, Leah. Let me see if I can describe them for you. Think of a period at the end of your sentence, 11-point font. 10,000 of these particles line up in a single row across the face of that period. That's how small they are. You need 600,000 power magnification to be able to see them. That's how teeny they are. So they go everywhere, whether you take them orally or you squirt them up the nose, they go everywhere. And then because they are what we call lipid soluble, they can embed themselves into tissue and fatty cells and hang there. And across time release, that's what that other half of the pharmacokinetics was for, to see how long our tissues would continue releasing that into the bloodstream. Fascinating.
And then, so after a few weeks of doing this, what would the study, people who are involved in the study, experience?
Yeah, so if you took nanostilbene in its full strength, that is an extremely potent anti-inflammatory antioxidant, right? We use it in cancer. It's patented as a cancer immunotherapy adjuvant. So that people, remember I was talking earlier about Herceptin, Herceptin is the #1 breast cancer drug in the world. And then there's rituximab, cetuximab. These are all monoclonal antibodies. The key to all three of these, and that represents, by the way, about $20 billion in revenue to those pharmaceutical companies, right? 20% of their patients fail. You know why? Their immune systems aren't capable of producing NK cells. And so they're treated, but they have failed treatment. If you add nanostilbene to that Herceptin treatment, that patient likely won't fail. So in a clinical trial of 12 advanced solid tumor cancer patients, they weren't breast cancer. There was a breast cancer patient, but they weren't all. This was a variety of cancers. So up north from us is LA. I'm in San Diego. In Los Angeles is Santa Monica. And in Santa Monica is the John Wayne Cancer Institute from our movie star John Wayne. Everybody that loves the movie, right? So one of my science team members, Dr. 𝑸𝒖𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆 is the chief of neurotherapeutics there. His specialty is brain cancer. He conducted a 12-patient clinical trial, solid tumor cancer patients with less than 6 months life expectancy. They were given this product for 3 weeks, and we measured against the inflammation caused by that cancer. Now, this may get just a touchy technical, but for some of your listeners who actually kind of know what I'm talking about, and I know many of them do because they read the science. People are smart these days.
They are.
You got to be smart. Go read the science. Here's what we hypothesized something would happen. We predicted that in each one of these cancers, and it was soft tissue sarcomas, head and neck cancer, there was breast cancer, there was ovarian cancer, it was a wide variety of cancers, 12 different patients, different age groups. We predicted something that would be found common in all of them, and that was that they would have high levels of 3 inflammatory molecules, one called tumor necrosis factor alpha, another one called interleukin-6, and another one called C-reactive protein. We predicted we would see high levels of those because the medical literature kind of predicts that anyways. But we hypothesized that if we could reduce the amount of those molecules in those patients' bloodstreams, their immune system could restart itself and begin producing a molecule called interferon gamma. And we predicted that if we could restart interferon gamma, then we could produce natural killer cells in these patients who needed natural killer cells. And that's exactly what happened. So with the patients with interleukin-6, on average, we had a 26% reduction in their serum levels of that marker. In CRP, I think it was 28%. And I think also in the IL-6, it was 26%. It was 26, 26, 28. But the key here was because we reduced them, it allowed a 12% increase in interferon gamma on average in these patients. Some had much higher stimulation than that, but I'm giving you averages.
Right.
That allowed for an average of a 37% increase in NK cell production. And what I'm saying is that's the difference between life and death in these cancer treatments, right? So that is a product made from blueberries being used as a cancer immunotherapy, patented by the United States government. They allowed us to patent that. And that's what nanostilbene is. So we make the neurostilbene from that. It's just too potent to use up your nose, but it's the same product, has the same, those same molecules. Guess what? They're found in the brain. They're found in brain cancer, right? So, but you can't get, you can't get the highly concentrated stuff up. Let me tell you a story. We use this in CTE. Remember earlier you said encephalopathy. How do you even say that word? Chronic traumatic encephalopathy, right? This is what the football players get who have too many concussions. We just had a player who just murdered 5 people here and committed suicide himself. I guarantee you when they study his brain, they will diagnose him as having CTE. So I have an IND before the United States FDA right now to do a phase 1/2 clinical trial using our stem cell in CTE patients. But I have a lot of friends in the National Football League, and maybe I'll show you, we'll send you some of these videos where these guys are using this to control the inflammation that is in their brains caused by CTE. And I can tell you it's day and night. And there's testimony videos online. maybe somebody just didn't show them to you yet, but I'll show them to you. But here's the story I wanted to tell you. These big, gnarly football players, the dose is like, at first was 5 milligrams per pump would go up the nostril. They were kind of crying. It's really hot. It burns my nose. Big, burly football guys. But simultaneous to this, I have a brain cancer clinic in New Mexico that uses this in their brain cancer patients. And not one of those patients has ever claimed that that 5 milligram concentration burned their nose. It's funny when you're facing your own mortality, right? What you'll tolerate and what you won't. Yes. So it's a funny story, but so we reformulated for those guys and took it down to 2 milligrams. That seems very, very tolerable, but it immediately delivers these anti-inflammatory molecules into the brain without having to digest anything. That's the whole key behind it. Yeah, and there you go.
Amazing. And we've got hockey players. Like I've got lots of.
It's them too. Believe me, they have CTE too. Any contact, even our military. I live next to a Marine Corps base. There's 50,000 Marines over there. If they're on the front lines and they're dropping big bombs out there, those shock waves that go through the air activate cells in their brains called microglia. Microglia is what leads to things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. If the microglia are not deactivated, they begin producing these inflammatory proteins and enzymes and molecules in the brain. And eventually you have conditions where people commit suicide and they kill other people and they get into substances that they,
they lose their wealth.
It's a vicious cycle.
They lose all their money.
It's
they lose their family. They lose all their money. We've only got a couple of minutes left, but I want to talk about this a bit more, this particular thing. So if people know that they've had concussion, because a lot of people know that they've been concussed and they know that they've got some brain issues going on, which product specifically would they come to the masteryourlife.ca site and be looking for on the Stuff I Love page? What would
I would say this, listen, for sure, without a doubt, the Quadrimune, if you just want to take a capsule, you don't want to squirt something up your nose, Quadrimune, without a doubt, no hesitation.
Right. But if
because all 4 molecules, they're in sufficient quantity. Do you know that for every beat of your heart, 25% of the blood that leaves your heart goes to your brain, every beat. So if we can get a lot of those molecules into your bloodstream in circulation, think how much is getting pumped to the brain. If 25% of your total blood that's being pumped out of the heart, each time it beats goes to the brain, right? So we're delivering that stuff in there, whether you took it by mouth. See, those 4 molecules can also be made intranasal and delivered. I just have to say it's kind of gnarly for the nostril. It's very unpleasant. I'll just say that. So we're better just swallowing it.
Starting with that, but to your point is if somebody is really suffering, they're willing to try anything.
Of course.
I have eaten things that taste like bales for years because I want to be well. Like, that tastes like a bale. Must be good for me. I'm a farmer.
Sometimes we do, like my mother used to say, I'm going to wash your mouth out with soap. I figured it must taste like something she wants me to taste, right?
That's right. Gotta love Mom. So we're out of time.
She never did. She never actually did. She just threatened.
Yes,
funny. I think all moms are like that.
Shaking the wooden spoon drawer.
Of course. No, I think I got the wooden spoon.
Awesome. It's been an absolute delight to have you on the show today, Tim.
My pleasure.
I just want to let everyone know that Tim will be coming back on with me because this is important. We've got lots to talk about, and he's agreed to come on and talk more about the other wonderful products that Therapeutic Solutions has developed for your health and wellness from the inside out, and the emerging technologies that you are developing depending on what else is going on in the world. So again, thank you, Tim, so much for your time. Everyone, love yourselves, love each other, mind your minds. That's all for us. Bye for now.
Bye now.
Thank you for being a part of our program today. Master Your Life is a presentation of Leaha Mattinson Enterprises, Inc. Join us next time on Master Your Life, helping you to discover the very best of you.